something we're doing really well right now is, I would say, paid on Facebook. And I mean the entire process, mainly creative testing, keeping ideas, you know, keeping our flow of ideas to testing to logging those ideas, testing landing pages, split testing, those kind of things. The whole funnel on Facebook is really where we're doing the best right now internally and then results wise.
What is up, Modern Commerce listeners? I want to show you an amazing app we've been using called Triple Whale. You can check it out at trytriplewhale.com. It has all of the business health metrics and growth metrics you could possibly need all in one place, right? So everybody can get on the same page. This has revolutionized our ability to help grow brands and collaborate with brands. Everyone can get on the same page on the most important metrics. So if you're a media buyer, you can come into this and you can just use this little pin icon right here, and you can pin to the top the most important stuff to you. So if I'm a media buyer, I might have ROAS, I might have ad spend, I might have new customer ROAS, right? But if I'm an owner, maybe those things aren't as important to me. Maybe I just want, net profit, show me the net profit, show me the sales, right? Show me the number of orders. So everyone on the team can get in line, get, on the same page of what the most important growth metrics are, because it's different for every brand. So grab Triple Whale at trytriplewhale.com. Use it. I promise you it will make your growth path far more clear. And enjoy this episode of Modern Commerce.
Hey, Modern Commerce, welcome back. You're here again with Casey and John. We've got another great interview for you today. We're going to be continuing on our How to Build a Blank Brand series. John, how you doing, dude?
I'm doing good, and I'm excited for the one today because we have a disruptor brand in a space where there is multiple disruptor brands, right? They're a disruptor in a disruptor space, right? So specifically men's hygiene, men's facial care, men's skincare. Today we have Trace Crawford, Director of E-commerce for Supply. Trace, give us a little background on yourself. Give us a little background on Supply.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm Trace Crawford. I've been doing e-commerce for about 3.5 years now. Got into it actually in college, looking for a little extra money on the side. So I got into obviously did the usual thing, Googled how to make money online. Got into drop shipping a little bit. Had a little bit of success. Did it in the free time, and then got back into it when I graduated college in 2020. And then it was getting towards the end of the Facebook arbitrage, drop shipping, printing money era, and you had to start learning a little bit about e-commerce. So through that, I took me to create my own brands from there. Ran that for about a year and a half, and then I was fortunate enough from Twitter to connect with Patrick, who is the founder and creator of Supply. And then that was about 9 months ago we connected, and I started working with them as then the head of growth. Since then, I'm now the director of e-commerce, and with that, I do a little bit of everything. So I'm mainly the media buyer is my most specific skill, but like I said, I do a little of everything. So I'll lead our overall direction with landing pages, offer strategy, campaign strategy, emails, a little bit of everything for us. Supply as a whole, we are a men's grooming brand. Specifically, we sell razors, single edge razors. That's what we started with. That's our main product. We just released 2 new razors. Actually, we have the single edge SE and the single edge Pro. We're growing, looking to expand more into like I said, the new razors, as well as skin care, beard care, all of men's grooming.
Amazing. Yeah. And so Supply has a pretty cool background with Patrick. Patrick and his wife started it, correct?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, it was on Shark Tank. So if you feel like you've heard of it, hey, isn't that familiar? It wasn't Shark Tank. They did get a deal on Shark Tank. So it's a tough one, right? Because so the whole point of this series is kind of to say, what are the unique challenges or unique advantages to growing various like different kinds of brands. So if we're going to call it, men's grooming, right? So we'd probably place supply in the same category as like a Disco skincare or Huron skincare or, beard care brands, other razor, I mean, there's other razor brands as well. So men's grooming, men's self-care sort of vein, like what would you say like unique advantages are of like trying to grow in that space, right? Like what is it about like, okay, yeah, in this space, this is a helpful thing that's like specific to us that you can't, that isn't really true if it's an apparel brand or some other kind of brand.
Yeah. I mean, for us, it's easy because we have a unique product. Like I said, we're mainly a razor brand, and we're not just another razor. We're not a copy of what you usually see in Walmart or wherever else you get your grocery store razors. And we're unique. We're a single edge razor, and a multi-blade razor convenient form. So for us, it's we stand out in that regards because it's a unique product. As far as like the skincare and the other accessory products we sell, having the unique product and positioning ourselves through that razor, it's instead of us just trying to sell skincare, we sell the razor, and then we sell the whole routine of the experience of taking care of your face and getting a great shave, right. And avoiding the razor burn, the irritations that come with some of those other razors. So like I said, it's the product, the unique product, and then being able to sell the entire experience that unique product brings.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I think like if you think about other brands that have been really big in what I'll like umbrella as the men's grooming space, so we'll call out a few, right? So Dollar Shave Club, their original sort of disruptor in the razor space, right? And then I'll call out like Dr. Squatch and Disco Skincare. Typically, like the formula is exactly what you said. It's not like better skincare or better personal care. Like it's not like this like broad idea. It's more like here's how you do it now. Like here's the now, and here's like just a better way for this to happen, right? Like that's what Dollar Shave Club's whole message was. That's what Dr. Squatch's whole message is. And that's what even Disco, whatever it is that they focus on, like, whether it's their eye stick or what, it's like, hey, here's this problem that you have. Here's this unique product that solves it. Or here's what you do for shampoo right now, and that's not like what you should be doing. Here's what you should be doing, right? So it's like, like the whole like point is not like to sell somebody on the big idea up front, typically, or that's not the formula. It's more like, hey, here's something you already buy. You should buy this one instead, and here's why. Yeah, that seems to be the formula anyway. So what would you say is like, I mean, with that in mind, kind of disrupting someone's like, I think, I'll gender stereotype a little bit here. Like men might be a little more creatures of habit. So I don't know, what would you say unique like disadvantages or challenges are in the men's kind of grooming space?
Yeah, so in our space, make sure I'm not muted. Okay, I'm not. In our space, people have been shaving using the traditional razors for years now, and so those beliefs are hard set in for a lot of people, especially the older side of our demographic. So it's definitely a challenge in trying to change their beliefs. There's hard set beliefs over time that have been set in, especially because for the the older demographic, razors were single blades for a long time, in the 90s, and then just lately, I think in 2005 is when the 5-blade razor actually came out, and that was just essentially marketing of Gillette and these other big razor companies.
And it just kept doing this like,
yeah,
2 blades. Okay, why don't we do 3, 4? At some point they were like, is 6 too many? 6 is probably
like that's exactly what happened. And so like a single blade razor was the best option back then, but it got saturated, and so Gillette and these other large razor companies just kept adding blades to add a new mechanism to their product, right? So it was like, oh yeah, single blade. Now we have 2 and 3, 4, and then 5. And so the market has just kind of accepted that, oh well, more blades are better, right? We keep adding blades; it makes sense. So more blades are better,
Yeah.
right? And so there's a layer of belief that we have to convince people or change their belief of like, no, your 5-blade razor is actually bad, and this is why. And so this is why you need a single edge razor. So that's the first step. But once you get them there, then we have to show them why our single edge razor is better and why you should choose us over the competitors. So it's there's some layers there.
I would have thought by 2022 we'd be at like 22 blade razors now. Like,
right. I mean,
that's where we were going.
That was the trend.
Right.
Yeah.
At some point, I think all the marketing departments at these brands it was at 6 blades that they were like, I think 6 is too many, guys. Like, it's just they're gonna figure out what we're doing here. Like
Nobody wants to go to 7. Come on, you can't do that.
Because it's not that it's more effective, right? Like you obviously know this. It's not that 2 blades and 2. It was just it was an easy way to get a differentiating message across, right? Like, it was, I don't know if I would call it lazy marketing, right? But when in a space that's not differentiated at all, right? Like, Schick's razor is the same as Gillette's razor is the same as whoever else's razor. Really at their core, they're not all that different products. Like, it was just the easy way to differentiate, right?
Yeah, it was just very easy for them to add the blades as a mechanism. Like, it's easy to add a blade. You're not creating anything new. You already have the blades. You have to change the handle to be able to accept a third, fourth, and stop at 5, maybe 6 too ridiculous. But it seems like 5 is where they've settled in, and they're still, like, the razor industry, they're still sticking to this tactic. They still rely on mechanization. I'm not exactly sure if that's the right one. They still rely on
like rotating heads is the other one.
Rotating heads, heated bars, strips. I think Gillette's new one is the exfoliating bar. So
imagine if every brand did that. I'd rather have like 1 Rolex than like 5 like Timexes or what. I don't know the cheap. I don't wear watches.
Hey, you think 1 watch face is good? What if there's watch faces all the way around?
All over.
You like telling time in your home state? How about you tell time in 7 countries at once?
Yeah. Whoa. No, yeah. So okay. What you have to do here is you essentially have to undo years of other marketers' work, right? I mean, let's be honest. It was actually pretty smart. Like, I remember I was alive when they first started advertising 2-blade razors, right? And then I remember kind of thinking, and I can't be the only one. Like, everyone else has to have noticed. Like, did they just keep adding blades? Like, is that actually better? Like, it seems like they just keep adding blades. Like, but you're essentially undoing, years and years of other smart marketers' work of like, hey, you thought 1 was good, try 2, try 3, try 4, try this heat bar, try this rotating head, try the exfoliating thing. And you're saying like, and you actually have to say, well, actually, 5 blades is bad for you because it actually causes skin irritation. Like, you don't need 5 blades to chop the hairs off your face. Like, the first blade does that, and then the other 4 just scrape your skin up, right? Like, you have to do that education, but they have that, like, so the other thing that comes into play here is efficiency, right? Because you have to pay to get a message in front of people, and you need to do that, right, at some level of efficiency on a cost per acquisition basis. So yeah, I mean, how is it that you do that to get the right message in front of people, undo all of that really years of work and advertising that they've taken in, and do so efficiently?
Yeah. So for a bit, what we've been relying on is we've been using a lot of advertorials to kind of get that message across, of just getting them to ask the question or acknowledge the fact that, okay, maybe the razor I'm using isn't good. So we'll run advertorials of like listicle kind of style advertorials have been working well for us. Like, why men are ditching their multi-blade razors, or the history of multi-blade razors, things along those lines, just to give them some education. And then we So that's like our main like top of the funnel education, but we'll send those down to a quiz kind of funnel. And then throughout that quiz, whether they buy in or they get subscribed to our email and sent to a welcome flow, which we then educate more on the specific razors. So that's what we throw that strategy in to make sure to get them to ask that question, get some education. And then following up on that, what we've been really relying on heavily for our paid acquisition is using our founder's story and using him, giving him as like an avatar for our customer, giving his hero's journey. And for that, it gives the whole journey for them. So it's like explains, his issue and how he didn't know that, why multi-blades were causing this damage to his skin, how he figured it out, and then why a single edge is better, and then how our single edge is easier to use and better than the competition. So that's been working out very well for us lately.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like once you get past that barrier of education, it's probably pretty easy to say, here's why ours is better, because none of them care about single blades and we do. Like, none of them are putting any focus into their single blade development. But so yeah, spend a little bit of time on, tell me a little bit of the background of his story, right? Because it is interesting. He kind of like created the brand out of necessity to him, and it has been on Shark Tank. And yeah, I'll let you kind of go on that.
Yeah, so Patrick is the founder. He was actually an engineer, an aerospace engineer. He designed and sold jets for Lockheed Martin, I think it's called. It's actually here in Fort Worth. But he was, it was a corporate job. He had to shave every day. He was having issues with multi-blade. He was getting, the irritation, the ingrown hairs. It was distracting to him. It was painful. And he ended up, looking into it. He actually started a blog called Razorpedia and trying a whole bunch of razors. And throughout that process, he came across, an old school injector razor. And he was like, this is awesome, but it's old. And it kind of sucks now in some regards. Like, it's design wise, it has huge room for improvement. And fortunately, he was an engineer and was able to combine his engineering background with this need, and that's how we got to the single edge 1.0, which then turned into the single edge 2.0, and now the single edge SC and the Pro.
So does Patrick still design new products?
Yes, he does. He designed the SC and the Pro himself.
So here's something I want to hit on here, because another thing I want to talk about here is like what, launching a razor brand, a disruptor razor brand today, 2022, it would be difficult, right? Like, so I want to talk about something here that like is a big differentiator for you guys. And that is, if most people were to launch a disruptor razor brand today in 2022, they would go find a razor to source, and they would try to, position it uniquely. And in the, my call out here is many of the men's, I don't want to say any brand names, and many of the men's below the waist grooming products, they actually use the same product, right? Like, it's the same core product, same core SKU. They're just putting different branding and different marketing on it, different angles, right? And trying to get to, different customer avatars and stuff like that. You guys do not do that, right? Like, you cannot go source that same razor that Supply sells anywhere in China or anywhere else, period. It is a uniquely designed razor by your founder, an engineer. And I think there's even like a patent on some parts of the design. Yeah.
On the new ones, we're working on it.
Yeah, so I think that's a unique advantage, right? Like, it's actually not just a source. It's a real, like, true disruptor brand, not like some disruptor brands that, have just done so with positioning, which nothing against that. That's great marketing, but there's a unique advantage there. So so you guys kind of launched mid 2010s, right? Like, when did Supply actually start hitting? Like, when did Shark Tank happen? Because that's, I think, when things really started taking off, right?
Yeah. So I think they initially started in 2015, late 2015, and Shark Tank was rather late 2016 or early 2017. Right. Can't give you an exact date on that.
Yeah. And so saw some really great growth really in that same
Hmm.
Instagram, Facebook arbitrage era. And supply has grown largely via Facebook, Instagram ads, right?
Hmm.
So talk to me about let's talk about 2020 first of all. Like, was 2020 a boom year for you? Was it a down year for you where people are like, oh, I don't have to shave anymore because I don't have to go out? Or was it like a really great year like it was for some e-commerce brands? And then let's also talk about 2021, from a demand planning perspective, from an iOS 14 perspective, and all of that. Yeah.
So I came in mid 2021. So for me personally, I can't speak for what 2020 was like for them. I know numbers wise, it was a surprisingly really solid year for them. I would have thought the same thing that you thought of, like, people aren't shaving, so why would I buy a razor? But all that stimulus money, they were like, let's
I mean,
splurge on a nice razor.
I think most jobs outside of the military,
Hmm.
which they didn't have COVID breaks, right? Like most jobs now, you like most men shave however often they want to shave. You know what I mean? Like they don't have a job that requires them
Hmm.
to shave more often. So it's like if they're comfortable with a shave every day or 2 days or whatever, they're going to keep doing that even with that when they're at home because their face is going to itch.
Hmm.
Whereas guys who are beard guys, they're beard guys when they're working in their white collar job too.
Yeah. So yeah, so 2020 or 2020 was a decent year for us, and then 2021, when the iOS 14 apocalypse, hit everybody, that hit us, pretty hard as well. So the summer was pretty rough. I came on in August, um, and since then things have been better. Not because I'm just the absolute best, but
Mostly.
fortunately, yeah, fortunately for us, I think the DTC community as a whole was starting to get a semblance of how to navigate iOS 14. The third-party data solutions were coming out. People were kind of learning, MER and omni-channel and things like that. So 2021 as a whole was a decent year for us. I don't think we really hit the goals that we wanted to hit, but it wasn't a bad year. The summer, the iOS 14 changes were hit us, but overall, we continue to grow.
Yeah. Amazing. And yeah, and then how have you come out the other side of that? So, I mean, some brands are still reeling a little bit, like, many like supply and just for, like, the downsides of a brand like supply is most of your customer lifetime value is wrapped up in the first purchase.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So essentially it's like we have to acquire profitably. And for a long time, Facebook or Meta, Facebook, Instagram created this channel where we could acquire profitably at a pretty large scale.
Mm-hmm.
And iOS has affected that, but also just we were already on this trend, right? Like from being a drop shipper, it got harder and harder and harder.
Yeah.
Like it was already getting less and less arbitrageable. And then 2020, I think what really happens, 2020 created this there's regression where it was
Mm-hmm.
kind of arbitrageable again. And then 2021 came all the way back to trend. Plus we had iOS 14. But now 2022, maybe Facebook or Meta has adjusted iOS 14 a little bit, but we're still on trend of things being less arbitrageable. So
Mm-hmm.
with a brand like Supply, right? Like I think the biggest thing that I wonder about is, it's not like you guys have done drastic increases to your prices or anything like that. Like the CACs or the CPAs that you need are probably relatively similar to what they always have been. How do you adjust to, just rising costs on platforms, harder, more sophisticated advertisers, and harder to continue to acquire at that cost and get the growth that you want on platform? How's it shaking out in 2022 so far?
Yeah. So 2022 so far has been honestly a great year for us so far. We hit our quarter one targets, and in quarter two we're looking well ahead of those. So it's been good, and I think just the broad answer is just make better marketing. Be better. Make better creative, create better landing pages. Create better customer experiences. That's one way to obviously beat the costs, right? And that's what everyone's going to talk about. Everyone talks about creative. Obviously, you see that all over Twitter. Like, oh, it's just creative. Creative's the biggest letter. Biggest. Make creative. You'll be fine. And I agree. to an extent. Your creative's great, and they'll give you, that will help with the rising costs on Facebook. But working on landing pages and learning more about your customer, ironing or locking in that marketing message is more important than ever. You can't just throw, just wild, broad, just general statements, not good copy, not aligned with your target market out there, and just hope to be profitable on that first purchase at scale. Right. So like you said, that that's an issue for us, is that a large portion of our LTV is wrapped up in that first purchase. Our main product is a razor. It's guaranteed for life. Like, unless we release a new razor, you're not going to buy another one from us. So we need to be profitable on that, right? I mean, we obviously have some LTV. We're not just entirely that first purchase, but we need to be able to prospect profitably. So outside of just being better at marketing, better creatives, all that stuff, for us, it's focusing on how can we increase that LTV. And for LTV, I think, you start talking about, okay, let's get LTV up. A lot of people are going to instantly go to, oh yeah, email, SMS, let's just send more emails, right? Let's send more post-purchase. Let's just get our campaigns up. And
better back end marketing. And
yeah, better back end, right? And that's, that's like chasing the pot of gold, right? Because is it, can y'all hear that train, by the way?
Yeah, that's all right though.
Yeah, we deal with it every day. But to me, that's like chasing the pot of gold, right? Because I mean, you can send some more emails and you'll get some more revenue, but is it worth it to bombard those customers? Are you actually increasing the LTV? You're probably turning off more customers than revenue you're getting in from those emails. So for us, it's how can we create a better customer experience and get these prospects to buy into our brand on the front end? So it's kind of the hot term on Twitter of like brand performance marketing, or
right
along those lines. Yeah. Creating those ads on the front end that people can get the aspirational from our brand and want to see themselves as this guy who's clean shaven, takes care of his skin, and is confident, and opposed to just like direct response selling razors.
Right.
So those are some of the initiatives that we've been taking to keep up performance on paid and continue to scale there.
Yeah. How yeah, no, and it's funny because it's like back to the thing I said at the beginning, where it was like, hey, the playbook in men's grooming is like, find one product, differentiate it from what they're doing right now, right? So here's what you do now. You already buy this thing, that thing that you already buy, that's trash. Don't do that anymore. Here's why, and here's why you need this instead. And what you're saying is like, okay, the very hard, like it's so true, that because it's like LTV, I mean, it's kind of where, I don't want to say it's where marketing ends, because like good marketing and good teams focus on it and think about it, but they have so much less control over it than they would like, right? Like you're saying, look, we can send more emails, we could get more clever, we can get more like, we can do more split testing in our flows and all this stuff. But if you actually watch your cohorts, right, it just doesn't show up very much. What really shows up is when people love your products and buy more of it. And it's almost like you don't even need to work that hard on the marketing side. Like those are the brands that really have great LTVs. So essentially it's like what you're saying is, how do we shift on the front end from just this messaging of buy this razor to the messaging of like buy into this idea?
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, when I think about it, one of the brands that I buy a lot from is actually this brand. It's called like Seek Discomfort. And like, I don't buy from this brand because they send me emails, right? They're not bombarding me with, oh, here's a sale, or we're releasing this. I buy from them because I like their message. I like the brand they have. So it's like, keep pumping out emails, right? You'll get your LTV up, but that's not it. If you want people to keep buying from you, like get them to like your brand. Right.
It's the backwards way to think about it. Like keep pumping out emails, because you might buy off of an email or you might buy off of an SMS, but you're really only opening that and having the intent to do that because you're like, oh yeah, I already like these guys' stuff. I want to see their new stuff. You know what I mean? Like I know that I want to see their new stuff and I might buy it. Like you know that going into the to even opening it. So
Mhm.
it's like, just sending someone more who doesn't have that buy-in up front, it's like only gonna get you so far, right?
Yeah. And for us, our since our most of our LTV is wrapped up in that first purchase, we don't have the privilege of like, losing money on the front end or running an offer and then trying to build that connection with the customer, on the back end. Like
Yeah.
we have to make it really on that front end, right? Because once you buy, you're probably not going to see many of our other ads. So it's like, and we know through comments and through feedback that people will repeat what they see in ads,
Mm-hmm.
like in the comments about the product. You know what I mean? If we say like, the Nix technology does this, like we'll see people say those exact words in the comments, right? And so it's the same thing with the brand messaging. Like if we're like, you know, get the razor, take care of your skin, be confident, feel confident, right? They'll take that message in when they buy the product, right? And so they'll buy the product and then they'll be biased towards that, right?
Right.
And then we can push, the skincare, beard care, other accessory products, and it's not just like, hey, you bought a razor, now do you want skincare? And like, why do I care? I don't care. Just I sold me a razor. Now it's like, oh yeah, I want to have clean skin. I want to look great. I want to feel confident. Come on, I like
Yeah.
you guys. Let's go.
Right. Like you're framing them up the right way on the front end. And from a messaging standpoint, I think the challenging thing there is you're like, how do we do that without trading off the efficiency that we have to hit? Now, is that hard? Is that difficult? Do you find that difficult? Is it like, yeah, it is. It's more difficult to find the winning messages than it is when we're just talking about the razor.
Yeah, it's a bit more difficult. It's also, I mean, it's difficult from, a measurement standpoint, right? Because you need time to measure, LTV, the cohorts, and then you probably have you kind of to iron out or lock in messaging for a month at a time to, split cohorts. So from just a measurement standpoint, it makes it difficult. And then it definitely makes the advertising slightly more difficult because we're not able to lean into like, hardcore direct response tactics and, sales and offers. But fortunately for us, the whitelisting, Patrick's story angle has been working out very, very well for us, which lends itself, clearly to this idea of, brand first performance marketing.
Right. So, getting a little more tactical here, since you are so heavy
Mhm.
into the marketing media buying, because essentially it's like, this is a brand that's driven heavily by paid media.
Mhm.
And it is like we got a profit on the front end play, which is like, those are getting harder and harder. There's fewer of those. So I think this,
Mhm.
like, people would probably be really interested in like, okay, what does that look like? Like, tell me, a little bit about how you think about your media buying in terms of like, you know, are you really focused like granularly on what ad and message did they consume top of funnel and what is the next thing that I'm going to target them with? Or is it kind of like, no, I just kind of test ads at each level of the, top, middle, prospecting, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel, and whatever works best works best. And then your landing pages, your email flows, like how much work goes into that? How much focus, how granular are you getting with your focus there? Because that's, to me, it seems like the only way, right? But maybe I'm
Mhm.
wrong. Maybe it is just like, nah, you can kind of let Facebook do its thing.
Yeah. So I don't know if this is a controversial opinion, but I we don't run any retargeting on Facebook right now.
Mm.
Don't do any of that. I don't really stick to the typical like funnel structure on Facebook with our media buying. Facebook is where we spend most of our money. We do a little bit of TikTok, but still Facebook, Instagram is by far the bulk. So I don't really lean into the retargeting. It hasn't worked for us. Like the idea of like, we'll have this top of funnel message, we'll educate them, and then we'll, middle of the funnel, we'll hit, we'll show them how we're better, and then bottom of the funnel, we'll hit objections. That sounds great. I love the idea of that. It does not work for us. It makes it so much more convoluted. We're a small team. I do all the media buying. I do a bunch of other stuff. I don't have it might squeeze out a little bit more efficiency if I had all the time in the world to manage that. I don't, and it just hasn't worked well for us. So for me, we go pretty much all top of the funnel. And it's just we just mix all of our messaging in the top of the funnel. And for us, we like to align it like top of the funnel and then middle of the funnel are like two demographics, but it's in Facebook, it's all, top of the funnel prospecting.
Right.
And for that, it's people who are problem aware, people who know they have, this irritation, know that their razor sucks, but don't know there's a solution to it. So we'll kind of segment that way and make messaging for them. And then we'll have like middle of the funnel, which is solution aware, people that are aware that there's a single blade razor or a different razor could solve that irritation. It's better than, there's a better option out there, but they don't know which razor it is. So we'll kind of segment that way. But it's all lumped together. We just know that like we'll just mix those marketing messages and don't do any segmenting there. Like I said, I've tried to segment, split those up and do like more of an organized funnel. In implementation, it doesn't work for us.
That's so funny because it's like, you're kind of saying what we did. And I guess maybe I'm kind of working from this assumption that like, I've got to be wrong about this. You know what I mean? But like, because it's just, it makes so much sense and it sounds so great, but it's the same thing for us. Like, I mean, and we do have, campaigns and stuff where we specifically target like, middle of funnel engagers or people who've been to site or whatever. But first of all, your top of funnel, your prospecting campaigns, they're going to target those people already. And secondly, it's like, same thing, like, actually thinking about, like, I think it's such a easy idea to sell, to think about like segmenting the message of like, oh yeah, these, and then the problem aware stuff is really top of funnel, or the unaware stuff that's really top of funnel. And then we're going to hit solution aware. And then we're going to hit like our solution aware in the bottom of the funnel and stuff like that. I think it's like this really easy idea to sell because it sounds so good and it seems like you're working really hard. But like from an effectiveness standpoint, I don't know, like it just time and time again doesn't seem to work. Like, what really works, whatever ad wins top of the funnel probably wins everywhere, like it's just your best ad, like that's kind of the thing that works, but it seems more lazy. So yeah, I mean, maybe I was just like, wondering.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what we've seen when we used to run retargeting. Was like I would go out of my way to create new ads hitting objections, a ton of different things, middle of the funnel things, just overall objections, throwing them into that retargeting, and they would never do near as good as what was working at top of the funnel. Yep. So for me, the way I think about it and the way that I tell our team is just like, think about the ecosystem of ads, right? We run most of our stuff at broad, and that will create its own, basically its own lookalike of people in that, that ecosystem, and they're going to get hit with, all of our ads. We're going to get hit with our competitors' ads. So like we just need to have the proper ecosystem to get them to purchase when they see the messaging that's right for them at that, at the specific point of the funnel, at their specific sophistication or awareness.
I respect that too. In true like disruptor fashion, you're kind of like not afraid to buck those consensus trends, right? Of how you should buy media, right? Like people tend to do that. From the agency world, like I kind of have like, I'll say controversial too, maybe like when clients come to us, I think they think that, these guys are going to get us results like they've gotten for other clients, kind of doing the same thing. Like they know how to do it. But the real secret, I think, the real power behind an agency is that you've had a lot of reps, sure, but you're not recreating the same circumstances and running the same plays all the time. The advantage maybe there is that you've seen so much that you have like a nuanced view on maybe what particularly you should do for this new client or even for a client you've had for a while. It's not that you go like, hey, we have this magic playbook that we run and it always works. But sometimes clients think that. So I actually, super, super respect that move to like do what works for your brand.
Right. Yeah, it's like if, supply or whoever, I mean, well, let's use different ones. If some, a disruptor deodorant brand came to us because we had run Dr. Squatch, which is what they do, right? Like that's why the brands come to us a lot of the time, because we had run Dr. Squatch, which we haven't, by the way, but like, using the same industry, they'd be like, yeah, like, well, that's why we're here, dude, what you did with Dr. Squatch. But then it's like, okay, well, first of all, like, none of your circumstances are the same. It's not the same time period. It's not the same, like, your CPA targets are not what their CPA targets were. Your business goals aren't what their business goals were. So we like literally can't run the same play, right? Like, I mean, jumping to a sports analogy, Trace, I know you're a basketball guy, but like, it's like, just because, a coach won a just because, Phil Jackson won a championship with the Bulls. I mean, I guess he did it twice, switching to his triangle offense. That doesn't mean he can come in the NBA today and take over whatever NBA team and be like, we're going to run a triangle offense. Because like, guess what? Triangle offense doesn't really work that well in the NBA anymore. So like, I've already figured that out. Like, so it's, I mean, we can't just go run the playbook that we ran with Dr. Squatch. Like, you have different circumstances and different personnel and different advantages and disadvantages now.
Yeah, and that was a big learning curve for me when I got started with supply was, you know, not only was the iOS changes, but then trying to like, you know, understand like, well, this is best practice, but it's not working for us, and then wanting to be, you know, very structured with what we're doing. But I'm at the point now where it's like I said, I don't have all the time to just be managing a ton of campaigns and doing a whole lot in the ad account. I want to just keep it simple and do what works for us, and that's worked the best, you know, incidentally. And so, like I was talking about with the ecosystem of ads, is like that's the way I think about it. You know, if Facebook thinks that somebody's interested in a razor, they're going to see all the razor ads on, you know, on Facebook, Instagram, or that's ours or our competitors, right? And so as long as we have the ecosystem in there, when they see the message that's like, that was the objection I had, or, you know, this is what I needed to hear, they'll buy, right? They're hearing everything, right? They know they're getting all the information. They're, you know, they just need that one thing to make them purchase. So that's kind of how I think about it.
It goes to something I said, like, you know, I think I've talked about this on another episode, or maybe not. Thinking an unpopular opinion is that I don't know if Facebook is true demand capture, right? Like the machine learning is so advanced now that even if you go broad, like really your ads aren't going to be shown to somebody who's like, wow, this is the first razor ad I've ever seen. That's really incredible. Like they're probably like the machine learning is advanced enough that they're probably seeing, like you're saying, they're seeing competitor ads. They're like already educated from your ads and other people's ads, and the fact that they are kind of in market for a razor or an affinity audience for a razor, even if they don't know it yet, right? So that's like really Facebook is that's why it got so effective, is because it took that demand capture capability of Google and like pushed it up funnel at least a little bit, so it's more scalable. But yeah, I mean, it's a good point. You're essentially working from the standpoint of like, you know, we're not showing ads to people who've like never heard any message about razors before, you know.
I mean, like if we were going to set up our funnel like in that organized fashion, like top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, like I'd previously talked about it, like problem aware, solution aware, that would be essentially assuming that the bulk of our market was all unaware. They had not seen a single blade razor ad or just known anything about single blade razors, and that was all top of the funnel, and then all that middle of the funnel ads, all that messaging about how we're better in comparison was just all going to be stuck for people who had seen that. Like that's just doesn't work, right? Like a huge portion of the market's already in that middle of the funnel, right? And they're not going to see that unless they, you know, watch % of this first video or click on it, whatever those parameters are. And they don't care. They already know that stuff. So they're not going to stop and watch. They're not going to click. And you just miss a huge portion of the market if you think about it like that.
Also, awareness is a grayscale, right? Like it's not like I was problem aware, but not solution aware. And now I've seen this ad, so I am now solution aware. Like people have different levels of recall. People watch different. It's just like, you know, I mean, it's a great, even if somebody watched 95% of a video, it doesn't mean they remember any of it, right? Or that they were even looking at their phone while it was playing. Like they could have completely been looking at something else, right? Like, you're essentially saying that, like, you know, to assume that we want to show a message to only people who are at this point, and then after that, they're now in this point, like you kind of ignoring the fact that it is this grayscale, right? So no, I like it. It's a good take. So talk to me about, I have a couple of standard questions that I like to ask brand people. And so the first is, and I know that, you know, maybe you don't have a strong opinion about this, but specifically Patrick does, or Supply does. We talk a lot about using agency versus building in-house. Obviously you are in-house, right? You guys are media buying in-house, doing a lot of your marketing function in-house. And I know that a lot of that is because Patrick has used agencies in the past, but specifically believes that like in-house is kind of objectively better. So I mean, I guess subjectively, because it's his opinion, and not everyone believes that. But yeah, now talk to me about, I guess, Supply's official sort of like thinking on using vendor partners, agency partners to help with various functions of the business?
Yeah, so like you said, we're all in-house. I know Patrick has probably a stronger opinion than I because he has used agencies in the past. Uh, I I think for him, and I can't fully speak for his opinion here. Um, I think for him, it was just that he just wasn't getting the getting the full attention that he needed from agencies. They weren't, they hand you off to an account manager or give each another media buyer, and then they just kind of run the playbook. And that's not all agencies, but I think that was kind of our experience. And I think iOS 14 was a tipping point of when everything kind of shifted, and then just the lower level media buyers, whoever else was managing the account, just wasn't getting it done. It wasn't really in the weeds of the business, caring about fixing this issue and growing the business. So I think that was the big shift for Patrick, and just wanting to build this in-house team. And for me, I've never I worked at an agency, but it was a direct mail agency for a little bit. So I can't speak to typical, growth agencies or Facebook media buying agencies. I prefer in-house. I really enjoy it, just because, I mean, there's a compounding effect here of just our team is, we spend a lot of time talking about ideas and and then what our marketing looks like, what we've tried, what we haven't tried. And like I said, it compounds over time. With an agency, you bring agency in, they, do the discovery call, they do the research, like, all right, let's run these. And there's just, if the agency stays with the company for a while, then, they'll maybe take some of that stuff in, but, they might cycle in media buyers, cycle in account managers. The in-house team is, like, we're all bought in, we all understand the brand, we all understand the messaging, we understand what we've tried and what we still, need to try. And we're all just passionate about it.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, look, I think, it seems like agencies took supply pretty long way, right? Like, because users were for a long time until iOS 14 hit. But it is, I mean, there's something there to be said for, like, if you were working with a media buyer in an agency, and your brand is a challenging one in the post iOS 14 world, right? Because it's like, look, we don't have space to not be profitable on first purchase. And if we're not profitable on first purchase, we're going to know right away, right? Like, it's not going to take a month or two for it to catch up to us. And it's like, oh, it'll be okay, we just need to figure it out. It's like, pretty quickly, we're going to be in the red overall if we're not profitable on that acquisition cost, because we're really heavily reliant on paid media. And those were the hardest, I mean, just straight, forward, those are the hardest, that was the hardest stuff to manage in, probably from about June 2020 through, I mean, holiday season, when things are always good, right? And it, like, so yeah, I mean, straight up, like, they're just June 2021, sorry, through holiday season when things, aren't good. Now, those are also the most fun to manage when things are going well, right?
Yeah.
To scale. And so if you like scaling, it's like, okay, like, you're gonna, do. So I think a lot of it has to do with the personnel, right? Like, we specifically have a team in our agency that likes that. Like, that's like, yeah, we're gonna have the crappy times, and we're gonna have the clients who, when things aren't there, they're going to know right away, and they're going to be honest, and we're going to have to, talk to them and try and figure it out. But when things are there, we get to scale. And that's, and so, which is, like, you've probably experienced that now, where it's like, oh, something cracked, something worked. And right away, because it's all like, it's like, there's no support revenue here. Like, there's very little support revenue here. This isn't coming from something else. This is because this ad popped off, and now we get to see it, and that's fun.
Definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, it's an interesting take. So I think, tell me about what you, so one other question I like to ask on these is, as an internal person, like, you worked at a direct mail agency.
I did.
But as an internal person, like, at a brand, I think you get deep on a lot of stuff, right? Like, or you get deep on one brand, and you so broad on a lot of different marketing functions, but deep on one brand, right? So it's like, you probably know a little bit about building landing pages. You could probably put one together yourself, and other people like Casey and I could do that as well, but not every agency person could. You probably know a little bit about running Google ads. You could probably do it yourself a little bit, or you might do it yourself. I don't know.
I do.
Yeah, so you know a little bit about running Google ads. You probably know a little bit about, like, using a Feedonomics and optimizing your feed. You guys probably don't have a super complicated feed, but probably know, you know about TikTok ads, you know about like email, like you kind of know a lot of things about, and you go deep on a brand. Like you said, there's this compounding effect of
Mhm.
having a little bit of awareness about a lot of different marketing functions. And I think that's like a super big benefit. But one thing I wonder is like when you are in-house, what do you feel like you miss that people who see a bunch of brands like us like see? Like if you could ask someone, hey, without selling me something, like tell me, this is the question I have for people who see what's going on across a lot of brands.
Yeah. Um, so like managing one brand, like you said, I get a little bit of everything, but I only manage one brand. So if something, works or something doesn't work or something breaks, I have no idea if that's something that I did or if that's,
Mm,
platform industry as a whole. Like
yeah,
this past week or so, we've had some issues with CPMs, and cost per click, things like that, rising on Facebook. And I was I'm over here like hypothesizing what I possibly could have broke or what broke on our end. And
yeah,
then, I don't see a bunch of brands. I don't know what's happening. And, when I test things, you only get to test it, you know, once, you can't get confirmation that costs multiple accounts.
yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. So I take it for granted, right? Because it's like if we have a big CPM bump, right, or something like that in an account, like quickly, easily, we can go just check we can just litmus test across accounts. Hey, is this an industry? Okay, yeah, this is a platform wide thing. And then we can even filter down to similar industry accounts, right? So it's like, it's a platform thing. Is this an industry thing? Did we probably have just a big competitor come in and start buying up a lot of ads? Like, what happened here? And we can just litmus test that so fast. And it's like, it's hard to remember that. Like, oh, when you're if I was only on one account, I would have all those same like, did I do something? And I guess it ultimately maybe doesn't matter, right? Like you still have to figure it out either way.
Mhm.
But I think that the fear of like, especially media buying is like, is this a short-term thing, and this is maybe where this gets amplified when you're just working on one brand. Is this a short-term thing or is this just like the new world and I got to deal
Mhm.
with this level of CPM now? Like, you know what I mean? Whereas I think with agency, like we maybe see the trends happen more, right?
Yeah, as well as like just outside of the ad account, you get to see multiple brands, right? You get to get inspiration from, different industries. You see, different pages, different offers, what industries are doing good, what ads are doing good. You get to see it all, right? I mean, fortunately, I use Twitter and I see people, tweet their experiences, but that's, only a small,
Highlight
small,
reels.
small percentage of our, of
Highlight
our
reels.
industry. So, um, running our brand, it's easy to get, stuck in the weeds of just seeing, what we're doing and possibly like our direct competitors. And then you don't get to see, you know, what's working, macro in the entire, DTC, e-commerce space.
You can only guess at stuff with your direct competitors. You know what I mean? Like you can't really, you don't really know. It's like you're like, based on how long they've been running that, like I kind of think that's doing well, but like you can only kind of guess at it. So yeah, that's interesting. It's almost like be worth launching like like here's a industry report, and I think there are some of those out there, but like sometimes sometimes they're not like super highly useful. But yeah, that's interesting. So yeah, so tell me one thing. So tell me something like because it's interesting. Like when you say like we have so many brand reps. If I look at a brand like Supply and I look at the roadmap and I'm like, how does this brand grow? Ultimately, it's like, I think you're doing a lot of the legwork stuff, but ultimately, I see it as like, you either got to grow by distribution and going into retail, going to Amazon, going to all this, or you have to essentially become a media company, right? And get just so many eyeballs top of funnel for entertainment, informational content type of stuff that isn't specifically focused on the razor, just like top of funnel true content. Like something like I don't know, the Ring brand we talked to recently, like they have a huge YouTube channel, almost 1 million subscribers in the makerspace where they make like weird rings out of like weird materials and stuff like that, right? But they have a brand, right? Like that kind of stuff, right? That's typically how I see brands like Supply that are not a high LTV brand grow. So what do you? I mean, the question I have is like, what is the roadmap for Supply? Do you guys think, hey, we think we still have a lot of space left to grow in D2C, or is that kind of the roadmap?
Yeah, I think we definitely have a huge room to grow in DTC. You know, we're we advertise primarily to just the US, and so we could expand there, you know, internationally, get some other countries in the mix more. You know, as well as there's a lot of other channels that we can, you know, grow on. I think we still have room to grow on Facebook, which is our main driver right now, but you know, grow more on YouTube, and our TikTok presence has been solid. So our organic has about, you know, five to 600,000 followers now.
Yeah.
So that's been a good channel for us. We haven't really been able to unlock paid consistently.
Yeah.
So just, you know, different channels, you know, things like expanding, you know, our product line. We just launched the SE and the Pro not too long ago, expanding into, you know, some international, or just some opportunities to grow there, just DTC. But we're also looking to get onto Amazon, you know, very soon, you know, into this quarter, next quarter for sure.
Yeah.
And then past that, you know, hopefully some retail. I can't speak on that right now, but
Yeah.
hopefully in the future we're looking towards some of those other growth channels.
You might not be the one who gets to decide that, but
Yeah.
no, I hear you. And it's you're right. Yeah, it's distribution. You know, global distribution is definitely an unlock for sure. Channel distribution across more paid media channels, though it is hard to, outside of Facebook, Google, you know, it's hard to squeeze out more efficiency. I will say that for a lot of our brands that are in a similar category, our media mix has definitely changed. And it sounds like, I didn't ask you this much, but it sounds like yours maybe has not as much, but our media mix has definitely changed to heavier Google, where we're like doing a little bit more prospecting on the Google side, right? Where we're getting a little bit more broad with our shopping campaigns or search campaigns. And that is actually like driving more full, you know, channel efficiency than Facebook, which you have to look at outside of the actual Google ecosystem, but that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, like, I mean, I think there's plenty of room, right? Like, and I'm not trying to say like, hey, yeah, you're totally, you know, stunted, but it's interesting how much, I think that what I'm really getting at is it's crazy, like how much you really can get out of a strong brand with a strong product, right? Like you actually truly have a unique product. You can go, I mean, you guys have been 7 years now, right? You know, direct to consumer pretty much only on paid media, driven by paid media, right? And that's the kind of thing that most people, if you look at DTC Twitter right now, so that's is really a huge props to you, because if you look at DTC Twitter right now, most people are like, oh, those are the brands that are going extinct, right? And you guys are having a great year. So that kind of leads me to my next question. So I'll hit on first. Let's go with this one first. So what would you say that supply is doing really well right now? It could be really tactical if you want, it could be something else. What would you say that supply isn't doing well right now? Like you think you need to crack, you know, something else in order to get it like unlock?
Something we're doing really well right now is I would say paid on Facebook. And I mean the entire process, mainly creative testing, you know, keeping ideas, you know, keeping our flow of ideas to testing to logging those ideas, testing landing pages, split testing, those kind of things. You know, the whole funnel on Facebook is really where we're doing the best right now internally, and then results wise, where we're not doing as well as you know, like an omni-channel. I would say that we're way too focused on Facebook. We've used TikTok a bit. We haven't, you know, cracked the code there. We haven't really gotten on YouTube, and our Google presence is as good as it can be. So that's where we're not doing well on the paid side. I want to give you something that's not paid media.
That's all right. I mean, we talked a little bit before. I think you were kind of saying like landing page, like more focus on landing pages for your paid media has been like a really big like game changer for you this year.
Yes, yeah, they absolutely have been.
Yeah. So just driving better conversion rates, better earnings per session, stuff like that. Yeah. All right. And then the last thing is, I know just a little bit of background on you if people are listening this deep into the episode. I happen to know you played college hoops, which is pretty impressive, being standing all of 5'10".
With shoes, yeah.
Yeah, with shoes.
With shoes.
You know, on tippy toes on a, like, you know, a really good confident day.
Yeah. Chest high.
Yeah. So we played some college hoops. So I know you're a sports guy. I know you at least like basketball. We've talked a lot of basketball. what are some things you learned from either sports or just analogies you take from sports? Like earlier, I used kind of the triangle offense analogy that you apply to business that you're like, this is actually like a really great, framework in the sports world that applies really well to, like my day-to-day work in business.
Yeah, I think the one that I think about is uh, practicing the fundamentals. For I'll use the analogy for paid media, right? Like everyone talks about creative, and that's great. Like creative to me and testing like big new creative ideas is like it's like the step back game winning three. Like you hit and you scale it to the moon. You'll tweet it or you'll tell everyone like, oh, this creative was great. But it's like you practice the fundamentals to get there. And so for us, it was getting the fundamentals and getting the reps of getting our internal system ironed out of how we're going to get these creatives, how we're testing them, right? This past month, we've had a winner that's allowed us to scale, but we didn't get there just from launching ideas and, shooting step back threes going for the win. We were working on our system, keeping that log, testing things, iterating continuously, which is, that's the fundamentals, that's the things you don't see. It's what got you there. It's, it's the jump stop, landing on two, it's the pump fake, those kind of things, your free throws.
Yeah, even more fundamentals, right? Like, so first of all, I want to so step backs is a great example because it's like a very sexy shot, right? And it's like kind of this unguardable thing. But I want to hit on a couple of things. To actually perform a good step back, like you have to sell the drive, right? Like you have to actually sell that you're coming forward. Otherwise, your defender will actually be able to cover that step back. In order to sell that you're coming forward, you have to have a good handle, right? It doesn't look like it when NBA players do it because they have a great handle. So it doesn't seem like you have to have a good handle, but you have, like the amount of dribbling drills, just straight up stationary or moving or whatever 2-ball drills that you have had to have done to perform a step back that looks as good as like an NBA, like a James Harden step back it's insane. Like you have to have done a lot of like taps through the legs, figure eights, all of these things just to dribble once between and step back, right? And like have a handle on it to like have it in your hand, right, to shoot. And then the same with footwork, because the step back is this like sort of fading shot. Like you have to have great footwork. So you have to have done so much footwork work, right? And that's all fundamental stuff that like you can't even do the move at all, right? Like you could go to the gym and try a step back, not having done any of that, and it would not look anything like a step back.
Yeah, it wouldn't be good at all.
Yeah, it wouldn't be good at all. And you probably wouldn't even hit the rim with the ball. Like you have to have done all that work just to even execute the move at all, right? So yeah, I love that one. I love it.
Yeah, like you can do the step back, get the space, but you got to make the shot. So it's like if the creative in this example is like the step back, get in the space, like if your landing page isn't ironed out, if your logistics aren't set up, your customer service, like that shot's not going to go in and you're not going to win the game, scale the winner.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I mean, it's shockingly hard to have your hand in the right position on the ball and to get your like follow through right and all of that stuff, right? Like you have to actually have those fundamentals down to hit the shot, right? So yeah. I love it. Yeah.
Okay, hold on, guys. Before we move off of sports analogies, I got one because something you said in the middle of the episode, Trace, it kind of triggered this in me, and I am a total casual for basketball. Okay, so you guys feel free to correct me.
No worries.
But I used to watch a little bit. I think I might be a little bit older. I used to watch a little bit more basketball, maybe in like the early 2000s, right? And the game has definitely changed, right? It drives me crazy when I watch somebody flop. For a GOAT discussion, it drives me crazy. I'm like, how could the best player of all time be flopping all over the place? Sorry, don't at me. I don't know. But okay. So when iOS 14 hit, that felt like to me like some of these players who like play the refs instead of play the game. They don't have the fundamentals. Maybe they're flopping all over the place. Compared to the people back in like the 90s, like the MJs, there were different. You had to score the buckets. I feel like, I don't know. That's my thing. Total casual. But felt like when iOS hit, it was like a time machine a little bit, right? You had to go back to fundamentals quite a bit more. You couldn't just rely on getting good at Facebook. You had to be good at marketing to make your marketing on Facebook work. So what do you guys think as far as like that? Like that's kind of like basketball taking like a little bit of a jump back. I know I'm missing so many nuances, but from one man's point of view, what do you think of that?
There are certainly scorers in the NBA who get a generous boost from the stripe every game, and they'll have games where they aren't getting the calls that they want and they do struggle. I mean, at the NBA level, they're usually pretty good at scoring anyway. But yeah, like, I mean, we've seen that. I've seen that happen to James Harden in, like, I don't know, a few years back in the series with the
Exactly,
Warriors.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, he stopped getting the calls because he wasn't, he wasn't the fan favorite. And I don't know, not to say that the refs call for the fan favorites. The NBA isn't the WWE, I suppose, but I don't know if it's as far off as maybe we think. But yeah, like, he stops getting the calls, and he can still score, but it is, like, very frustrating. He doesn't get all that assistance from the stripe. I mean, there was a time in that playoff series when they went to the Western Conference Finals, or maybe it was the semifinals with the Warriors. Yeah, I mean, I think he had been averaging 10 to 15 from the line a night. So it's like, yeah, he's putting up, 30, but the third to half of them from the line. So, and Facebook provided that. Like, it's like Facebook would give you all the calls, right? And give you all of that assistance from the free throw line. So yeah, all right. I like the analogy. I'll allow it.
I mean, Trace is the expert though. So, I mean, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, I cut in there, but
That was a good one.
okay. Yes.
You let it
you're
fly.
good with
You
my
let it fly.
analysis there.
I mean, people always want to see, like, what if LeBron played in the 90s? I'm like, we kind of got a glimpse of that. You saw a lot of a lot of brands fall off when that hit. So that, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, cool. Trace, I appreciate you being on. Thank you so much for hopping on with us. And yeah, Casey, I guess say the YouTube stuff. Take us out, man.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. Well, thank you for joining us, Trace. It's been wonderful having you on the show. John, thank
been a
you for
blast.
lining up. Oh, yeah, totally, dude. John, thanks for lining up all the questions. I know you put a lot of prep into these things. It's turning out great. I'm loving this series we're doing. Modern Commerce, if you made it this far into the episode, surely you liked it, right? I mean, why were you watching for an hour if you didn't like the video? So go ahead and like the video, please. Hit that little thumbs up button. Let people know that you liked it so other people can come and enjoy it too. Hit the subscribe button so you're subscribed to the channel. I think YouTube likes it. It'll help us out. Help us out a little bit. Come on, ModCom. Hit that bell icon. If you don't know what that does, it'll notify you when we drop new stuff on the channel. So if you like the videos, why wouldn't you want to know when we drop new ones? And as always, until next time, we'll see you.